Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me. My name is Lauren, and today I'll be guiding you through a gentle yoga sequence. Mostly gentle, somewhat restorative, but both sort of in that category of gentle. Where we'll be focusing not so much on one specific body part, but with it being October and Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I thought we could do some poses that focus on breast health. And so as we're moving through the poses, I'll talk a little bit about why these poses are poses I've chosen and why we believe that they promote breast health. But if you're interested more on that, I've linked to this post a paper I wrote if you're interested in reading lots about it. I wrote a paper for my teacher training. It was my final project, it was my thesis, and it was about yoga for breast health. So if you're interested in more about that, it's about 13, 14 pages, so it's kind of long. But if you want to read it, I put it on there. So that has more specifics, of course, but relating yoga to breast health and not just asana, not just the physical postures. In the paper, I talk a little bit about pranayama, but really the whole idea is just moving is going to help your lymphatic system and your lymph fluid, lymph nodes, all of those things that really do help your immune system. So what we're going to be focusing on is the cluster of lymph nodes that are in the armpit, because that is where anything needs to pass through those lymph nodes before they can make their way into the breast tissues. And so we're going to be doing a lot of sort of this stuff. So, which is always good and always really comfortable. Some of my favorite poses. So that's where we're going. Again, more information, the paper, if you're interested. I thought I'd throw it in there. So, and because we're moving through somewhat of a gentle, somewhat of a restorative sequence, you're going to need two blocks. Or even 2 paper towel rolls. We're coming to a pose where you're going to be laying on the blocks. So pillows don't really work quite as well, but something the shape of a block. So again, a paper towel roll even works, but you'll need to. Okay, we can start. So we're going to start on our backs. Come on down onto your back. So make your way down onto your back in any comfortable position. And as you make your way down into this position, just really arrive here. Let the weight of your body feel heavy on your mat. Let the earth really support you. Now continue letting your physical body, this layer of your being, let it rest. Let it soften. Turn your attention to your breath, to your prana, your life force, life energy. For a few moments, just notice your breath. Notice the way that feels to breathe in this moment. And we want to keep this connection to the breath. And so you're welcome to stay as you are, or to aid in this pranayama, in this breathing technique, allow your left hand to come over your heart, by your chest, by your collarbones, and bring your right hand to your low belly, below your belly button. So again, left hand over the heart, chest, or collarbones, and the right hand at the low belly, below the belly button. Let the elbows rest on the ground. So if your hands are off-centered, if your hands really more on your shoulder and your hip, that's okay. We want the arms to relax, hands to soften. And as you breathe here, notice which hand can feel the breath beneath it. Breathing naturally, can you feel the breath in your left hand? Can you feel the breath in your right hand? Maybe you feel it in one hand more than the other. Maybe you feel it equally under each hand. Maybe you feel it in neither. Notice for a few more moments where your breath is traveling within your torso. And you are welcome to stay here. Breathe naturally, breathe organically, breathe without effort. Or maybe you start to deepen your breath and manipulate your breath to send your breath down to your right hand, down to your low belly, down past your belly button. Can you manipulate your breath to take these deep, full, long breaths? This is called belly breathing or diaphragmatic breathing. And when we move into this breathing pattern, we're massaging the organs and we're sending a signal to the nervous system that it's okay to calm down. So with each breath, manipulate it a little bit more to really send the breath down to your right hand. Allow your right hand to rise and fall with each breath. Imagine filling your lungs like a balloon would fill with air. It expands in all directions, filling all the way. Continue with these belly breaths for 3 more breaths. After that 3rd belly breath, return back to your natural breath and allow your arms to rest alongside your body with your palms facing up. Take a moment to notice how you feel. Keeping your attention inward. And if it feels right for you, you're welcome to silently set an intention for your practice. Or, and I don't often give this option, but know that it is always an option, you might choose to dedicate your practice to a specific person or group of people, maybe that you know or do not know in your own life. But know that you always have the option to set an intention or maybe dedicate your practice. But either way, whatever you choose, Reflect on that, maybe repeat it a few times, and allow either your intention or your dedication to settle in your heart. Start to deepen your breath again just a little bit. And bring some movement into your body. Maybe rock the head side to side. Wiggle fingers and toes. Move arms and legs. We're going to be moving fairly slow today. So even here, know that there's no rush, but start to bring some movement into your body. Know that everything we do, not just in this sequence, but anytime you're practicing yoga or moving your body, you're in a fitness class, you're in a dance class, whatever it is, your movements should be comfortable. Nothing should feel sharp or shooting or painful. Nothing should make you wince or make a face. And that's really especially true when we're moving a little bit slower. It should feel like you're indulging in something instead of pushing through something. Okay, so give yourself another moment. Okay. All right, and then we're going to come up to a seat, so you can rock right through to the center or roll to your side and push yourself up. All right, we're going to take a seat. We're going to be seated for a little bit. Really, our entire warm-up is seated, so I'm going to take a seat on my block. Okay. So taking any comfortable seated position, let your legs relax. Lengthen up through the crown of the head, let the shoulders soften, arms rest. All right, we're going to move through the spine. Inhale as you draw the belly forward. Lift your chest, lift your heart. You might even look up. Exhale, tuck the tailbone. Draw the ribs back, chin to the chest. Look down towards your belly button. Inhale as you draw the belly forward. Lift the chest, lift the heart. You might look up. Relax the shoulders though. Exhale, tuck the tailbone, ribs back, chin to the chest, look down. We'll do just a few more just like this at the pace of the breath. Now, as we're moving through the practice, continue with your own breath. Avoid attempting to manipulate your breath while you're moving through these poses, even the restorative ones, even as we're holding the poses. Now, we're not going to be moving through a true restorative sequence. When we're moving through a restorative sequence, we hold the poses for at least 5, maybe even longer, 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. We're going to be holding the poses for a much shorter time, something like 1 to 3 minutes, something where you can still relax, but we're not necessarily coming into it in a restorative way. Okay, slowly return back to the center. Sometimes I start talking and then I realize we have to move what we're doing. Okay, so come back to the center, lengthen up through the crown of the head, shoulders still soft. Inhale, circle the arms up. Exhale, let the right hand come down, left fingertips sweep up and over. Inhale to the center, lengthen up. Exhale, switch. Left hand down, right fingertips reach. We'll continue moving at the pace of the breath. Inhale and exhale. So again, we'll be taking some restorative poses, but not necessarily holding them at the length you would typically hold them at. Again, enough to relax, get some of those benefits. And we'll be moving between those poses. Again, it's sort of this gentle / restorative hybrid sequence, which I like. Let's do one more each side. Okay, and then inhale, return to the center, lengthen up. Exhale, drop the arms, take the twist over to the right. Inhale to the center, lengthen up. Exhale, drop the arms, take a twist to the left. Moving with your breath, inhale and exhale. Keeping shoulders relaxed, even when the arms come up overhead. Even when you're twisting in the spine, shoulders are still soft, away from the ears. We're focusing on the spine, on the torso, on the midsection. So shoulders can relax, throat, neck, and jaw can soften. Let's do one more each side. Inhale, return to the center. Exhale, let the arms come down. Okay. All right, so if you're sitting asymmetrically with your legs crossed, change the cross of your legs or change whatever asymmetry you've got going. Switch it so it's on the other side and just notice how that feels. Okay, so now we're going to focus on our shoulders. So I mentioned that we're focusing on the cluster of lymph nodes within the armpit. And so we're going to be moving the shoulders here, okay, in hopes of stimulating. Okay. All right, so lengthening up through the crown of the head. Inhale, let the arms come out. Exhale, cross the right arm on top of the left like you're giving yourself a hug. Now, really crawl your fingertips back, reach for your shoulder blades, and lift your arms up off your chest so your elbows point forward instead of down at your lap. Okay, now shoulders can still come away from the ears though. All right, now check out your elbows. This one's a little tough to see on your own. If your elbows look something like this, if they have not crossed each other or stacked one on top of each other, stay here. But if they have stacked one on top of the other, or if they have crossed, you still can stay here. Or maybe you turn your arms, fingertips up towards the sky. Maybe backs of the hands together, or maybe the palms. Again, we're focusing more on the shoulders, so don't stress about the hands. But lift the arms up off the chest and draw the forearms forward, away from your chest. The intention here is to open your upper back and the backs of the shoulders. Again, getting that movement close to the armpit. Now we're focusing on the back. We'll get to the front later. Okay, let's stay for one more deep breath. This is the arm portion of Garudasana, eagle pose. Inhale, let the arms come out in opposite directions. Exhale, cross the left arm on top of the right. Crawl the fingertips back, reach for your shoulder blades, give yourself a hug. Lift the arms up off your chest, elbows point forward. Now again, you might just stay here and that's okay. You're still gonna be opening back here. Or maybe if elbows have stacked or crossed, you might turn at your arms, fingertips reach to the sky, backs of the hands or palms together. Okay, but shoulders can fall away from the ears even though the arms come up. Check out, make sure that your spine is in neutral, that you're not thrusting your ribs forward. And again, lift the arms up away from the floor, but also the forearms forward away from your chest. Feel that opening in the backs of your shoulders. Garudasana, one more deep breath. Inhale, let the arms come out in opposite directions. Exhale, let the arms come down. All right, now let's roll the shoulders a few times. So you can do them together or you can do them sort of one at a time, alternating again or both together. But try to make really large circles here. Do about 2 or 3 more in this direction. As you're moving your shoulders, try to keep your head and your neck fairly still. And then when you're ready, reverse the direction of the circle. So it's not bad to move your neck here, but what people tend to do without realizing it is they sort of bop their head forward with every motion. If you ever watch people at the gym, there's a lot of head bopping, and I don't think it's the music. There's a lot of this, and because people just aren't paying attention to what they're doing with their head and neck, so that's all I'm really asking. Okay, you can let your shoulders relax. Let's do one more stretch here, one more warm up. So again, sitting up tall, lengthening up through the crown of the head, shoulders relax. This is meant to be a really passive stretch, so not a lot of work involved. Let your right ear fall down in the direction of your right shoulder. Now let it just fall and feel heavy, ear towards the shoulder. You're not pushing, you're not forcing. You're letting it fall. You're letting it just hang. Okay. Now again, shoulders relaxed, arms relaxed. Let the head fall and feel heavy to the side. Notice the opening that you get in the side of the neck as the head just hangs and falls. Let's take 2 breaths here. And now very slowly, return your head back to the center, all the way back to neutral. Crown of the head reaching up towards the sky. Take a deep breath. Gently allow your head to fall over to the left, like your left ear is just falling in the direction of your left shoulder. Shoulders relaxed, arms relaxed. Now let the head feel heavy, truly just let it feel relaxed, effortless. And notice how little effort you're putting forth, but how much of a stretch you're gaining. Notice that feeling in the side of the neck. We'll stay for 2 breaths. And then very slowly return the head all the way back to the center. Again, crown of the head up towards the sky. Take a deep breath here. Okay, all right. We are gonna start it up. All right, so we are gonna start coming down onto our backs, and this is where you are gonna need 1 block, at least 1 block, most likely just 1. But you can come on down onto your back. Coming down onto your back. Now, if you're like me and you place something under the back of your head, typically when you're on your back, I ask you to not do that here, and I'll get into that. I'll get into why in a moment. This is one of the very, very few poses, actually this one and the next one, oddly, are the 2 of the very few poses that I ask that your head is right on the mat. Okay, we're gonna set ourselves up, arms alongside the body, palms down. Knees bent, feet flat. Feet and knees about hip distance apart. And I know you can't see your feet, but sort of feel them out. Are they 2 parallel lines? If you were able to see them, would they look like the number 11? So sort of feel it out, okay. All right, so we're gonna come into some moving bridges, and then we'll set ourselves up in a restorative bridge. All right, so for this moving bridge, the first thing I want you to think about is your pelvis. So we're gonna take this 1 sort of extra step, add an extra step to this for the purpose of the alignment in the pelvis. Okay, so as you inhale, lift your ribs up off the ground, tilt your pelvis and your belly button towards your thighs. So you're arching your back here a little bit. You're in a little bit of a back bend. Okay, now exhale, tuck the tailbone, push your ribs, push your lower back into the ground. Now hold it here. Now you might feel your abs contract, that's good, and if not, that's okay. But push your ribs down, your lower back down. It's like you're trying to tilt your belly button towards your face instead of your thighs. Now this is a posterior pelvic tilt for my anatomy people, posterior pelvic tilt. We want this tilt, so again this tilt, belly button towards the face throughout the whole bridge, on the up, on the down, at the top, at the bottom. Belly button towards the face, not the thighs. Okay, so keeping your belly button towards your face, push your feet down into the ground and inhale, lift your seat, your hips, your low back, your mid back, lifting up. When you get to the top, really reach your hips up and squeeze your glutes. We're gonna work a little bit here. Squeeze and engage.
Keep the tuck of the tailbone, but slowly drop your mid back, your low back, your sacrum, your seat. And then you might, between each of these, we're going to do about a handful. You might inhale, lift the ribs, point the belly button towards the thighs. Exhale, push the ribs down into the ground, belly button towards the face. Now inhale, push the feet down and lift. Peel up off the mat, one vertebrae at a time, belly button towards the face. When you're at the top, squeeze your glutes, make your backside work. Belly button still towards the face, and you slowly lower down. So notice when we're at the top of the bridge, a lot of the weight of your body is in your head, neck, and shoulders. We want to make sure that your head is really stable. So that's why I ask that you're just right on the floor, right on the mat. Okay, so again, we'll do this a few more times just like this with that extra step. Inhale, lift the ribs, belly button towards the thighs. Exhale, push the ribs down into the ground, belly button towards the face. Inhale, push the feet down, lift the seat, lower back, mid back, lift, squeeze. Maybe this bridge is a little higher than the last one. Belly button still towards the face as you exhale, slowly, carefully lower down. We'll do about 3 more bridges. I'll let you move at your own pace, moving in a way that works for you. But as you're moving through these bridges, really ground your feet. Plant your feet into the earth. Really strengthen the legs, squeeze your backside. But as the legs are contracting and pushing and grounding and strengthening, can you relax your shoulders? Can you relax your throat, neck, and jaw? Can you soften through your chest? Working through the legs, engaging through the legs, the glutes, and even the lower back, but softening these other spaces. One of the things that I often feel that yoga taught me, among many other things, is how to work some spaces in my body and let other spaces relax. Because often in fitness, it's about engaging everything, right? Everything needs to be working all the time, and it's really overwhelming. And that's not usually really what we're asking. So some spaces can be working and feeling like they're working so hard, and other spaces can just relax, can take a break. Okay, let's do one more bridge just like this, moving at your own pace. One more moving bridge. Once your torso comes all the way flat, back down onto the mat, come into constructive resting pose. So bring your feet a little bit wider away from each other at the long edges of your mat. Let the knees knock in toward one another. And just let your body rest. Take a few breaths. One more breath here. Okay, all right. Now we're going to set up for our supportive bridge. So we're going to bring the feet back to hip distance, feet flat on the mat, knees bent, feet like the number 11. Grab onto your block. And I always like to start by grabbing the shorter side. So of course your block has several different sizes and shapes, but I like to grab onto one of the smaller sides, the smaller surface area sides. Same thing, push your feet into the ground, keep the tuck of the tailbone as you inhale and lift, belly button towards the face as you lift, reach and rise, and then slide the block under your sacrum. Now your sacrum is not the same as your lower back. It is below your low back. It is south of your low back. So making sure that the block is on the sacrum. Your sacrum is a flat bone where the rest of your spine, the vertebrae, has those bumps, right? We don't want to rest the block on one of those bumps. We're looking for the flat spot. Okay. So you might have the block on its lowest height, the sort of biggest surface area. And this might be really comfortable for you, and you might just stay just like this. If you're looking for a little bit more back bend, more stretch, more opening, you might push your feet into the ground, lift your hips, and somersault the block a quarter turn, either away from you or towards you. So now it's on its medium height. I don't recommend placing the block on its highest height, and that's not just, I never recommend it. That's not just for the sequence or not just for how much you're warmed up for. I just never really recommend that. If you need more height, I'd rather you take 2 blocks on their lowest height and stack them one on top of the other, like how you would stack books, sort of, if they were laying on their side. I just realized we don't stack books that way. Sorry. We use bookshelves. Okay, I'm getting off topic. But I would rather you stack 2 blocks instead of rest all of your body weight in something that small. So that's my 2 cents. You do what you like. Okay. But again, checking that your sacrum, the flat spot, is what's on the block, and you'll feel it. If you find a spot that you're like, oh, that feels good, that's probably your sacrum. Okay. So from here, allow your arms to do whatever is comfortable. If you've got the room, you might let your arms come out in opposite directions, palms up. That's good for the lymph nodes in the armpits, or maybe just the arms alongside the body, but either way, let the palms face up. Now, sometimes when I'm here in bridge pose, my inner thighs start to shake. I've got some injuries down here, and so that's probably at play. But if you're one of those people, if you're like me, sometimes I like to just knock my knees in. So almost like bridge pose plus constructive resting pose. It doesn't really work here on this higher height of the block, but that's an option. You can play with walking your feet away from the block a little bit or in towards the block a little bit. I want your legs to be comfortable. So I mentioned that we're coming into these poses that are restorative poses. We might not be practicing them for that full length, but the idea is that you're in a pose that takes little to no work, where everything can relax. So from the tips of the toes to the tips of your fingers, up the length of the spine to the crown of your head, you are relaxed. You don't have to work. You don't have to engage in any way. Allow yourself to soften. And one more thing to know or notice about yourself in this pose is, how are you breathing? Oftentimes we naturally come to belly breathing here, and if you have naturally arrived in belly breathing, stay with it. But again, try not to manipulate your breath when we're here in these poses. So if belly breathing comes naturally to you here, notice that. If it doesn't, notice that, and that's okay. I really just want you to breathe. It doesn't matter to me here if it's in your belly or your chest. Just breathing. And we'll stay for several more breaths. Notice the way that your body is adapting to this pose, taking on this shape, feeling maybe a little different with each moment that we're here. We'll stay here for 3 more deep breaths. we'll slowly make our way out of this one step at a time. So if you're on a height other than the beginning height we all started on, if you're on the second height of the block, or if you're on 2 blocks, we're gonna all come back to just that 1 block on its lowest height. So to do that, push the feet into the ground, lift the hips, they don't have to lift high, and bring that block back down to 1 block on its lowest height, and just pause here, just maybe 2 breaths. Just gradually coming out of this pose. There's no rush, there's no hurry. And then when you're ready, push your feet down, lift your hips, slide the block completely off to the side, and very slowly lower down. Once you come all the way down again, come back into constructive resting pose. Feet wide at the edges of the mat, let the knees knock in. Notice how your spine feels now that it's out of this pose and back in neutral. One more deep breath. All right, before we set up for our second pose, which we're gonna, same sort of thing, we're gonna be a little active. We're gonna take the active version and then the passive version. And the active version, you maybe have never done before. It's a little, it's sort of an obscure pose, I suppose you could say. So you might wanna watch first, and that's fine. But before we even do that, I had so much to say in that last pose but I still wanted to give you some silence that I skipped over why that pose was in this sequence. And again, if you're interested in all the specifics, there's more on the paper I wrote, which might be of no interest to you, and that's perfectly fine. I just thought, hey, why not throw it in there? But it's an inversion. It's very subtle, but your hips are higher than your heart, and most people argue that's how you define an inversion. Some people say your head has to be over your heart. There's all these sort of, it's this debate, right? But most people argue if your hips are higher, closer up to the sky, to the ceiling, than your heart, then you're inverted, you're upside down. And so supported bridge is an inversion, and inversions are generally detoxifying. Anything that gets stuck down low now has an opportunity to get flushed out. So we might not have been targeting that specific lymphatic group or group of lymph nodes, but still the idea of detoxifying, flushing things out. I'm not a big fan of the word detoxifying. That's a really different tangent, but that is the basic idea. Quick little tangent. I don't like for anyone to feel like they need to be detoxified. There's nothing toxic about your body or what's in it, and I hate the idea that students feel like they have to flush out and rid, and it's a whole thing, and you buy into this idea that, so that's separate. But okay, let's get moving. Enough about that. All right, so again, we're gonna come to fish pose. Supported fish is one of my favorite poses. We're gonna take the active version first. So I will do it as I'm describing it. You can watch, you can listen, you can rewind, whatever you need to do. Okay, but so we're gonna take the active version of fish pose. I will cue it while I'm doing it. You choose whether you wanna watch or listen or both or whatever. Okay, so legs long. We're gonna lengthen the legs out along the mat. Okay, but we're gonna lengthen the arms also along the mat alongside the body. So hands are sort of along by the hips. Now we're gonna slide the arms underneath our seat. So palms down, and you slide your arms underneath you. So for me, I'm sort of sitting on where, if I were wearing a watch, I'd be sitting on my watch. I'm not really sitting on my hands. My fingers are really under my thighs. That really is about the length of your torso versus the length of your arms. I'm not saying that your body will look just like that. I just want your arms long. Your elbows should not be bent here. Arms are straight, arms are long, and you just sit on whatever you end up sitting on. It's hands, wrists, forearms, whatever. Okay. Now the legs are going to be active, so push your heels away from you, toes up towards the sky. Hug the elbows in tight. This is an upper body pose, so this is where we start to get into the chest opening and shoulder opening. So we're going to push the forearms and the hands down into the ground, keeping the back of the head on the ground. Back of the head stays on the ground, neck in neutral. Push your forearms down to lift your ribs. Now we're going to lift the ribs and the chest. So the mid back and upper back are off the ground, but the back of the head is on the ground. We're taking the milder version of this pose. Okay, so you might know a deeper version, and you might even know it from me, but we're taking the milder version. So back of the head on the ground, you're looking straight up at the ceiling, up overhead. You push your forearms down and lift your ribs, lift your spine, lift your chest, arch your back, come into a back bend. We'll stay for one more breath. And then very slowly lower the spine, lower the torso. You can wiggle your arms and your hands out from underneath you. I like to come back to constructive resting pose. You can allow your legs to stay long. Okay. So this is fish pose. And this is the active version. This is really how we traditionally practice it. I mentioned that it's a little obscure, this version. I think I've only been to 3 yoga classes where it was taught. It's not taught very often. I think just because it's sort of challenging, but I don't think that that means we should avoid it, right? Should we avoid all challenging things? I don't think so. We'll take the supported version in a moment. We're going to do the active version one more time. Give yourself a breath. Okay. All right. So we're going to do that again. So we're going to lengthen the legs. And again, bring the arms underneath you. So whether you're sitting on your hands, your wrists, your forearms, doesn't matter. But the arms should be straight, sort of right alongside the body. Your elbows and your arms should be right alongside your torso. Okay. Legs are long. Push through the heels, toes reach to the sky. I want your feet and your legs to act and look as if you're standing. So ankles at a right angle, pushing through the heels, legs active. Okay. Push the palms down, hands down, forearms down. Keep the head heavy, but push the forearms down to lift your torso. Lift your chest, lift your ribs, come into a back bend. So your mid and upper back, and probably your lower back even, come up off the ground, but the back of your head is flat on the ground. So again, nothing under the back of your head. I mentioned that, these two poses. Okay, so push the forearms down, lift the ribs, lift the chest, lift the heart, broaden through the collarbones, expand through your chest. Take a deep breath here, fish pose. And then slowly release and lower down. You can slide the arms out from underneath you. Again, you can keep the legs long. I'm a fan of constructive resting pose. But just let your spine come back to neutral. One more breath. Okay. And then slowly roll over onto either side. And then use the strength of your arms to push yourself up off the ground, coming up to a seat. Okay, now we get to rest in a different version of the same pose. So we're going to take both of our blocks, and I mentioned that you could be using like a paper towel roll for this pose even, or excuse me, 2 paper towel rolls, but it would be the same setup. Okay, so you're going to take your blocks or paper towel rolls, whatever sort of makeshift thing you have, and create this letter T sort of formation like this, more or less. So the block that is for your torso and for your ribs, the one that's a little closer to you, that's going to most likely be on its lowest height. Now, something to note, it depends on the props you have at home. This block
and most blocks are 4 inches on this long side. This is 4 inches. You might have one that's 3 inches. That often is the case. A lot of times you might have a block that's 3 inches. So there's a difference there, and that might not be enough for you. So just kind of notice that too, that even though you might think a yoga block is a yoga block, they're actually not all the same. So like mine are cork, and they're really heavy and they're really dense, and they don't have any give to them. So I treat the cork blocks differently from the foam blocks, and okay. Anyways, the one that's a little bit farther away from you is 1 height higher. So it's gonna support your head. I've got another tangent. Sorry, I'm just thinking about all my information. I just want to spit it all out at you at once, and I'm trying to parse it out. Okay, so if you know you really like this pose, you might take each block up a height. But again, the one behind your head is going to be 1 height higher. You guys know this. Okay. All right. So what I like to do, what I think sort of positions me for a good setup, is I take one hand and I let my pinky finger brush against the block, and I let my thumb brush against my body, and I know that's about the distance that I like. So try it. And then start to slowly lower down. I like to bend my knees, feet flat. I like to come to my forearms first. So when I'm on my forearms, I can make sure that the block is centered, because I can tell it wasn't, that it's not crooked, and it's gonna hit right where I want it to hit. And then I can lower down and then do the same with the block under my head. Making sure it's centered, it's right where I like it. Okay. Now you might keep your knees bent and your feet flat throughout this. You might lengthen your legs. Notice that bending your knees is gonna allow because we talked about this earlier, it's gonna allow your belly button to point a little bit more towards your face. If you lengthen your legs, your belly button is gonna point much more towards your thighs. So it's pulling your pelvis, which is gonna create a deeper stretch through your lower back and have this domino effect. So really notice how not only the leg position changes your legs, of course, but how it affects the entire spine, because it really does. Okay, now here's where we really want this opening through the chest and shoulders. So if you've got the room, arms out in opposite directions, palms up. Now, oftentimes when I'm in this pose and I have my arms directly out in opposite directions, like the letter T, within about 30 seconds, one, if not both of my arms will start to fall asleep. So I like my arms sort of at a diagonal, almost at like a 45-degree angle, instead of that sort of 90-degree angle. You position yourself in a way that feels good, because this is all about feeling good. Okay, so here's where we really open through the front of the chest, the front of the shoulder, and allow for that circulation of the lymphatic fluid through the lymph nodes. So it's different about your lymphatic system and all of that from other systems in your body, is that your lymphatic fluid will sit stagnant if you don't move. So comparing it to your heart pumps the blood, right? It's like this vessel and valve, and that pumps and pushes and forces blood, right? And so it creates this movement and this circulation. You don't have to do anything. Your heart just pumps and pumps and pumps. Your lymph fluid is not like that. It needs to be manipulated by you. It will not pump, it will not flow, it will not circulate unless you move around. And so any movement, of course, will help in that circulation, but our hope here is to target that specific region of lymph nodes, because you do, I know I'm just reciting all the stuff from the paper, but you have 3 major clusters of lymph nodes in your groin, in your armpit, and in your neck. And so here obviously we're targeting those. And so let your arms relax, let your arms feel heavy. Allow the back side of your body to feel very heavy, to feel very relaxed,
like it's releasing to the props beneath it. And as the back side of your body feels heavy, feels relaxed, feels grounded, notice that the front side of your body can feel light, can feel lifted. It feels open. And sometimes these opening poses, especially these heart openers and these back bends, sometimes they make certain emotions come up. And so notice, when you're noticing how you feel, you're not just noticing the physical. You feel in many different ways. And so it would be a disservice to yourself to only check in with how you physically feel. We certainly want you to check in with how you physically feel, but keep checking in a little deeper beyond that superficial layer. Notice how you feel. Stay for 3 more breaths. Start to deepen your breath. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Maybe rock your head side to side. Roll wrists and ankles. Move arms and legs. Okay. Now to release out of this pose, bend your knees if they're not already bent, feet flat on the ground, and slowly roll sideways all the way off the blocks onto your side, resting your ear on your arm to support your head and neck. Stay here for a few breaths. And then if it's possible, slide the blocks off to the side and roll onto your back. So we'll come down onto the back with knees bent, feet flat, just for a moment or two to just notice the way that your back feels now that you're again back in neutral. So you were in that back bend for a while. And notice what it feels like to be here with your spine more in neutral. One more breath here. Okay. All right, we are going to stay on our backs and we don't need any props. But this is where I will bring something under the back of my head again. You might do the same. Okay. All right. So our last set of poses. We have to do it on the right and the left. So that's one pose or two pose, however you consider it. We're coming to the end, but again, we're going to take the active version and then the passive version. All right. So for this one, bring your arms out in opposite directions, palms face down. So that means a little bit of work is about to come. All right, so just like before, we're gonna inhale, lift the ribs, belly button points towards the thighs. Exhale, push the ribs down and keep them there. Keep breathing, but hold the movement, okay? Ribs are pushing down into the ground. Lower back is pushing down into the ground. Belly button is tipped just a little bit closer to the face. All right, now you're gonna lift your right leg up off the ground like you're resting your right heel on a coffee table. Right knee is bent at a right angle. Now slowly do the same with the left, bringing the feet together, maybe even the knees together. So your knees are bent at a right angle, your shins are parallel to the floor, okay? Abs should be working, that's what we want. We're not gonna stay here long, okay? Now what we're gonna do, you're gonna keep your shoulders down on the ground, neck in neutral, head on the ground. But inhale, let your legs go halfway over to the right, to about a 45-degree angle, halfway down to the right. Exhale, return them back to the center, slow and controlled. Inhale, go halfway over to the left, about a 45-degree angle. Exhale, return them back to the center. Use your abs. That's what we're trying to do here. A few more each side. Inhale, go halfway over to the right. Exhale, return it back to the center. Inhale, halfway over to the left. Exhale, return it back to the center. Two more each side. You've got this. Now keep your shoulders relaxed, chest relaxed. Spine is twisting, core is working, legs are moving, but legs aren't really working that hard. Your feet are touching and you're keeping them together, but your legs really aren't working very hard. Notice that it's your core. Do about one more each side, just like this. Twisting through the spine, working the core, working the abs and obliques. They're about to get a good stretch in a little bit. Now, next time you come back to the center, pause there. Make sure you're pushing your ribs into the mat. Slowly let the right foot lower all the way down, let it rest. Let the left foot lower all the way down, let it rest. Okay, now palms can face up. Palms will face up and just let the knees sway side to side. So similar movement, but feet on the ground. Notice how a lot less work it is. Just let the legs sway just a few times. So we'll be coming to a twist. We'll stay for a little bit. And then Shavasana, right around the corner. All right, so the next time you come back to the center, pause here. Kneecaps to the sky. Scoot your hips over to the right a few inches and let the legs fall all the way over to the left. So the hope is that if you were to look at your body Your spine and your torso is still sort of a straight line. So I like to think that my right hip is still sort of in line with not necessarily my heart, maybe more a little bit over to the right, but it's more or less a straight line. We don't want to be kind of hooking or at a diagonal. Okay. Now if it's comfortable in your neck, you might turn at your neck to look over your right shoulder. And we're going to stay for several breaths just like this. Now we're not really targeting, again, that group of lymph nodes by the armpit. A little bit. You might feel still a little bit through the chest and shoulders. But twists are another category that, and I'm using air quotes here, are detoxifying. And again, I'm using the air quotes because I don't care for the word, but the concept is real and valid. And this is, but I think the word gets misinterpreted or misconstrued, and so I just want to be careful using it. I guess I want to be clear on that, but we're still allowing the body to push out anything that it is already trying to push out. It just needs a little help. So again, the lymph nodes, oftentimes the lymph nodes are called like the garbage system of your body. All the junk goes there and then it has to go somewhere, right? So that's what we're doing, that movement, and we're helping that circulation, we're helping that pump, we're helping that fluidity and that flow action of the lymph nodes, of the lymphatic fluid. Okay, but again, there's nothing toxic about you or your body, and you don't need to hurry and detoxify and sweat, and you certainly don't need to buy anything that says it's detoxifying. Okay, that's my major point. I'll stop here with that, but this twist. All right, so let your shoulders relax and feel heavy. Let your body really enjoy, and again, indulge in the fact that you're not working. Just a few moments ago, you were really contracting and working and engaging, but now you can soften. Let yourself soften. Let's take 3 deep breaths here. If your head is turned, slowly return it to the center. Slowly return your legs back to the center, kneecaps to the sky, and then return the hips to the center, spine to neutral. Take a deep breath. Let the legs sway side to side. Just a few times, each direction. Let them sway, let them rock. And then slowly make your way back to the center. Once you're back at the center, scoot your hips a few inches over to the left. Let the legs fall all the way over to the right. You might turn at your neck to look over your left shoulder. And then rest. Let your body soften. Let your muscles and joints all relax. Any benefit from this pose is happening because you're relaxing. All of this internal work that's going on, the massaging of the organs, the flushing of the lymph nodes. All of that happens when you soften. It happens when you let gravity do the work. Three more breaths here. If your head is turned, slowly return it to the center. Gently return your legs to the center, hips to neutral, everything back to the center. Take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, hug your knees in towards your chest. You might stay here in Apanasana. You might come to Happy Baby. In either pose, you might rock side to side. But take a few moments, a few breaths, being somewhere that just feels really good. Then takes a very small amount of work. I'm gonna come up to a seat, but you make yourself comfortable in your Shavasana. So coming down onto your back, maybe with your legs long, maybe in constructive resting pose. But finding a position that's very comfortable where you can really rest. And as you are resting, I'd like to read a quote from an unknown author, again reflecting on not just Breast Cancer Awareness Month, not just disease and illness, but just thinking about healing and strength and what that really means. So it reads, "Know that the greatest goddess was once the wounded warrior. She has known pain, and through it, she has found strength, just like you can. Take all of your battle scars and wear them with pride. You're a survivor. Know that the greatest goddess was once the wounded warrior. She has known pain, and through it, she has found strength, just like you can. Take all of your battle scars and wear them with pride. You are a survivor."
as you deepen your breath, create soft, subtle movements throughout your body. Let your head rock from side to side. Run your thumbs over the rest of your fingers as you wiggle your toes. Roll wrists and ankles. Move arms and legs. You can reach your arms overhead, stretching as if you just woke up from a long nap. Take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, hug your knees in towards your chest and slowly roll over onto either side in a tucked fetal position. Keeping your eyes closed and using the strength of both arms, push down into the ground and come up to a comfortable seat. Take a moment here to thank yourself for making it to your mat today. And maybe reflect on your intention or dedication for a few moments. Loka samasta sukhi no bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free. And may the thoughts, words, and actions of my life contribute in some way to the happiness and freedom for all. And now join your hands together in front of your heart in Anjali Mudra. To seal our practice, we'll chant the sound of Om one time. Om is often referred to as the seed sound or the sound of the universe. All sounds came from the sound of Om. It unites all of us together. Again, we'll chant the sound of Om one time. Let's start with a deep and clearing breath. Inhale for Om. The light or the good in me acknowledges, respects, and bows to the light or the good in you. Namaste. Thank you so much. So again, this was a gentle / restorative sequence, all with the intention of aiding in breast health, which again is all about your lymph nodes, lymphatic fluid and system and all of that. So moving around. So thank you so much for joining me. This sequence has a really special place in my heart. I'm getting a little choked up. My mother had breast cancer, and that was the motivation and sort of the idea for the paper and the sequence, and I recently came across it and kind of got me. So I wanted to share it. So thank you so much for following along. And my mother is healthy and safe and wonderful. But again, it holds a really special place in my heart. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful day. Take care of yourself. Bye.